Hello, hello. What is up, everyone? Welcome, welcome. Good morning to you. So I'm up on this fine morning to talk about the new welfare servant on the JP server. This is Taisui Arts AOE Welfare Alter Ego. If that sounds familiar, it should sound familiar, except for the welfare part. We already have an Arts AOE Alter Ego in the name of Sessio and Kiara. However, that is a limited SSR, so let's see if this is going to be worth getting excited about from an F2P perspective. First up, again, we have a Arts AOE Alter Ego right here. Double Arts, double quick, pretty moderate hit counts, nothing to call home about. Middling star weight as well, but honestly, you're not going to worry too much about any of those things once we get into the kit here. First skill, 10 to 20% on the Arts up, 10 to 20% on the NP gain up. Both of those are for the party, and then 5 to 10 stars per turn for themselves. If that sounds a little bit familiar from an Arts up and NP gain up perspective, Mr. Paracelsus right here on his second skill has the same Arts up, but 1 turn longer on the cooldown. Obviously, the third skill for Paracelsus is unparalleled from an F2P perspective. 30 to 50% plus the targetable guts. Very good, obviously, but does Paracelsus have this kind of damage output? The answer is no, not even close. Looking to the second skill here, we have what should sound familiar to NA players, as well as veteran JP players, a targetable guts, debuff immunity, and buff removal resist. Now, the first and third aspects of those are very familiar due to Santa Nightingale. These are really welcome effects. Anytime you can have a targetable guts, someone like a Santa Nightingale, a Summer Nero, and now a Taisui. Very attractive to have. Buff removal resist is always good, especially if you played through LB6 and some other events. Anytime you can keep the buffs that you've got, NA players going through 5.2 have a taste of this as well. Then it's obviously a very good skill. Very good skill. Not to be outdone, however, this third skill here, skill seal on all enemies, NP damage up 20 to 30%. That's very good. And then a 20 to 30% battery. Again, a 6-turn cooldown. All skills have a 6-turn cooldown. Now, when we look at this kit, right off the bat, we do have NP damage up. We do have Arts up. So, right off the bat, we have 2 of the 4 aspects of multiplicative damage. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's not really a huge thing to keep in mind, but it's something we like to nerd out about on my channel sometimes over on twitch.tv/Sharquado. Multiplicative damage calculation is done in 4 different categories: attack up or defense down, card color up or card color resist down on the enemy, and then NP damage up or a power mod or an anti-trait buff, and then the super effective mod. So we already have 2 of these right off the bat. Let's see if we can find any more, right? Going on to the NP over here, it is a very good one. Again, Arts, AOE, Alter Ego. What you're looking at here is a servant who can apply the Taisui state to all enemies. It's defense down 20% for 3 turns, and it applies curse of 1,000 damage for 3 turns, and applies evil curse, which is increased curse damage over time of 100% for 3 turns at the time of the death. So what that means is when one of these enemies dies, this debuff is going to get triggered on the other ones, right? Other enemies on the field. It's great. It's fantastic. It means that as an Alter Ego, despite not having true class advantage offensively, and despite having a very, very high damage output, as we'll continue to see, anyone who is left on the field with their allies dead on the enemy side, you are going to have an easier time taking them out with damage over time. Not to mention some challenge quest utility that is probably going to be evident in the future as we've seen some more and more complex servants come out recently. It applies curse of 2,000 damage, 5 turns to the enemy outside of that Taisui state, and it deals super effective damage against human trait enemies. So, we now have the super effective damage, which is a very, very healthy amount, not to mention how many human enemies there are in the game. And we have defense down, which is calculated in the game's algorithm as attack up. When we take all of that into account, suddenly we are looking at the attack up, which is the defense down, Arts up, NP damage up, and the super effective power mod on the 4th one. So the damage output potential for Taisui is massive. It's very, very good. Very good. For a welfare servant, you are going to be hard-pressed to beat an Alter Ego that can do this kind of damage. I don't know how you could, without knowing about this servant's kit, let's say we were to step into a lab and try to design a welfare AoE Alter Ego for maximum damage output, this is going to be pretty high up there. This is going to be pretty close to what you'd come up with anyway. Very good offensive servant here. We'll take a look at the passives here. There is a little bit of divinity right there. Damage plus 195. Not really going to change the outcome of a battle in my opinion, but who knows. Debuff resist 20% baked in as well. Not to mention buff success rate up by 6%. That's nice. It's okay. Most importantly, in my opinion, on these append skills, though, you're looking at some incredible append skills. Namely, the anti-assassin attack aptitude. Now, when we say incredible append skills, plural, obviously you have magical energy charging. That's pretty standard. But with this being 20% and the battery on Taisui being 30% at level 10, that slots in nicely at a 50% starting charge should you have that skill at level 10. And should you have this append skill at level 10. Neither of those are really outside of the question. They're not too far away from your grasp, as we'll look at materials in just a moment. Anytime you can start with a 50% on an AoE servant, there are 50% welfare CEs out there, as well as a 50% charging CE in the friend point pool, Dragon's Meridian for NA players, or Leyline for JP server players. So we have a 50% potential starting charge on the servant. We have anti-assassin attack aptitude 20 to 30%, which is great because as an alter ego, you already have anti-assassin damage baked in. Great append skill set right there. From a material perspective, obviously as an extra class, it's going to be a little bit more reasonable in my opinion. You're going to have a lot of gems that you're going to need up front. Obviously, this isn't as accessible as like a ruler class, but it's pretty good. Once you get up to skill levels 8 and 9, that's when the real materials come into play. But even this is not super unreasonable. 6 homunculus babies, 6 crystals, and then next level 7 gallstones and 7 of the spirit roots. Honestly, not really all that out of the question, not really all that far out of reach. This is pretty reasonable, especially if you're seeking to do like a 9, 9, 10. And we'll talk about skill level ordering soon in just a moment. I do like this bond CE. It is an NP damage up 30% on themselves. That's very good. And then when Guts is triggered, 3,000 curse on all enemies for 5 turns. The reason that matters, as we looked at over here in the NP, we do have disastrous curse baked into the kit as well. Once an enemy dies, the curse damage for all other enemies is going to shoot up. Very good kit. You're looking at a lot of different potential here. Farming, they've got the battery, they're AoE, good to go on a lot of different nodes in the game. Challenge quest wise, a lot of access to very high damage modifiers, all 4 aspects of multiplicative damage. And even without that, you have access to some damage over time memes. If you do have a Coin Sky of Darkness, perhaps, or a Waver, you're looking at doing some pretty healthy curse damage over time, especially if there are multiple enemies. Looking at everything, I would probably put like an A rank on this, maybe even A+. From a welfare perspective, this is probably an EX welfare, honestly. Are we looking at a Kentucky Rider level? Probably not, no. But are we looking at definitely one of the better welfares we've seen from a kit perspective? Yes, I would say so. Going through everything, this is a good servant. This is a good welfare. Arts, AoE, alter ego, no longer owned by Kiara. Damage over time and utility, no longer owned as an AoE alter ego by Doman alone. You love to see more aspects of the game get more accessible for more different players, especially F2P or newer players. So seeing a welfare like this, in my opinion, is a very welcome sight. Make sure you do everything you can to not only NP5 them, but max level them as well. And then if you want to get those skills high up, let's go in order. I would say obviously skill number 3 with the battery here, 20 to 30%. Anytime you have a battery in a servant's kit, you're probably going to want to upgrade that first. I would go the first skill next. Although the scaling is a little bit bad on the stars per turn, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, and then 10 stars. This right here is going to be what's going to be your moneymaker on it. The 10 to 20% for the arts up and the NP gain up. The last skill is skill 2, but I wouldn't recommend you abandon this or anything. This is a very good skill to have maxed anyway. You could definitely make the argument that this is a servant you should have 10, 10, 10. Simply for the value and utility you get across all 3. The battery here, the NP gain and arts up here, and then the buff removal resist right here on a targetable guts. It's all good. It's all good. This is a very good servant. Long story short, great welfare. Take advantage of them. I hope you have fun with them. And most of all, thanks for watching this video. Have a great one. Thanks, guys.